Marketplace is supported by TIAA, who knows clients' passion will never run out, nor will TIAA's commitment not only to get clients to retirement, but through it. More at TIAA.org/neverrunout.
Can, down the road, it's been kicked. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by GEP, helping transform supply chains with strategy, services, and software, including GEP Smart and GEP Next, AI-based digital procurement and supply chain platforms. And by Avalara, simplifying sales tax compliance with cloud-based solutions. Avalara automatically integrates with more than 700 of the most widely used ERP and e-commerce solutions. Avalara, tax compliance done right. And by WeWork, committed to working in new ways, focusing on health and safety, flexible terms with purposefully designed spaces. More at WeWork.com/tomorrow.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Risdell. It is Tuesday today, the 22nd day of December. Good as always to have you along, everybody. It took months for Congress to get around to doing something for this economy. $900 billion, as you know, is where they landed. One of the biggest relief packages ever, yes. But it is a truth universally acknowledged that A, $900 billion is not going to be enough to fix the economic damage being done, and B, a lot of the new help in that bill doesn't last much farther out than early April. So Marketplace's Sabri Benishore gets us going with where the can that has been kicked is going to land, which is to say our short to medium-ish term economic future.
Do not get Kurt Spalding started on government aid. Those one-time $600 stimulus checks?
What is $600 really going to do for an individual at this point? Nothing. As a drop in the bucket for closing our economy down for a half a year or more.
Spalding co-owns Kathmandu's Bar and Grill in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. He is going to apply for the next round of Paycheck Protection Program money, but he says last time was not enough.
We're losing probably well over $100,000 in revenues, well over that. What do you think that does to me, my family, and more importantly, my employees who are sitting out there struggling right now, not paying their bills? Some of them are trying to get food stamps.
But the $900 billion does include a lot. Special access to food stamps extended for 6 months, $300 in extra federal unemployment assistance through March, pandemic unemployment assistance into April, all with a vaccine rolling out.
This is a lot of firepower, and it would not surprise me if this is all that's going to end up being needed.
Michael Strain is with the American. Research at Northwestern, and says the most recent delays have been costly.
What we've seen, of course, in the last couple of weeks is increasingly desperate situations, especially for low-income families.
And if that desperation means another stimulus is needed as soon as this one ends, well, human desperation didn't really get Congress to move quickly this last time around. In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore for Marketplace.
You know how we say all the time that consumers are the backbone of this economy? Because, they are. With that in mind, here is the macroeconomic quote of the day today. Consumers' assessment of current conditions deteriorated sharply in December as the resurgence of COVID-19 remains a drag on confidence. That was Lynn Franco. She's with a group called the Conference Board. They put out surveys every month of how we are all feeling about things. And the answer really is not good how we're feeling, because Franco went on to say consumers do not foresee the economy gaining any significant momentum in early 2021. So that. Of course, though, on Wall Street today, some new record highs. We'll have the details when we do the numbers. The last decade or so has been real good for the American oil and gas industry. Lots of exploration and expanding economy into which to sell all that oil and gas. Could even call it, were you so disposed, a boom time. The thing about boom times, though, is they eventually go bust. And when that happens, the consolidation begins. Mergers and acquisitions of targets of opportunity, of which QEP Resources out in West Texas is today's example. It's being snapped up by Diamondback Energy for about $2.2 billion. Marketplace's Andy Euler reports that the word du jour in the shale-rich Permian Basin right now is contraction.
When oil prices were over $130 a barrel in 2008, investors with little experience in oil and gas tried to get in while it was hot. Michael Lynch is a fellow at the Energy Policy Research Foundation.
You know, the old joke about the doctors and lawyers putting money into it, people really became irrationally exuberant and threw a lot of money at it. People bought into a lot of high-cost production that they shouldn't have done.
He says in the early days of the shale revolution, because the technology was new and innovation was happening every day, many companies developed specific expertise. But Joseph Tripke at Liam LLC, an energy industry research firm, says the sector has matured, the economics have deteriorated, and many companies are over-leveraged.
And so all those things kind of add up where it does make sense for this industry to consolidate. Deleveraging is badly needed, and M&A provides a vehicle to do that.
He says M&A, mergers and acquisitions, just make sense right now. The industry is also preparing for an incoming Biden administration that could be harder on oil and gas than its predecessor. Energy companies are already trying to get more sustainable, but Alex Beaker at Wood Mackenzie says that's often when it makes sense for the bottom line.
I think we're still kind of on the cusp of seeing companies go out of their way to employ technology that is good for the environment, but maybe hurts the bottom line.
He says when that day comes, it could signal a real pivot for the future of energy production in the U.S. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
It occurs to me we've already had 2 words of the day today on the program, and it's only 7.5 minutes in, but here are 3 more. Marketplace Morning Report. Everything you need to know to start your economic day. China and the United States compete increasingly in this global economy. One of the long-standing rivalries is semiconductors, the computer chips that are the building block of basically everything in tech today. The know-how needed to make those chips is worth billions of dollars, and that introduces the phrase economic espionage into the conversation. In a case that is still going on, the Justice Department has gotten a guilty plea from a Taiwanese company accused of stealing chip secrets to give to their Chinese partners. The assumption by American officials has long been that China uses sophisticated methods and experienced spies in these operations. Not, however, this time, as Marketplace's Scott Tong explains.
This story begins with 3 engineers in Utah working for the semiconductor company Micron. One of them, Kenny Wong, is accused of stealing some 900 of Micron's intellectual property files back in 2016. Semiconductor analyst Jim Handy is floored by this.
First thing I wondered was, how did the guy who stole the IP have the chutzpah to do that?
Handy, who works for the firm Objective Analysis, says Wong took the recipe for making memory chips, known as DRAM. They're in our phones, our computers, and other consumer devices. Handy says the entire blueprints can fit on a tiny digital card.
A lot of people talk about it as being the size of your thumbnail. And it would be like that if you flattened your thumbnail out, but it sounds painful.
Anyway, court documents say that Wong, DRAM in hand, quit Micron, saying he was joining his family's business. In fact, he went to a competitor. But not before he made 2 crucial errors. First, Wong stored the stolen goods on his work laptop. And then to hide his digital tracks, he Googled the phrase clear computer data. Again, Jim Handy.
The fact that he downloaded the advice about how to clear off his disk that added to the indications that he was guilty.
But before authorities caught on, Wong took the secrets to a Taiwanese chip maker called UMC, which is partnering with a Chinese firm, according to UMC's plea. And Wong joined UMC himself. He's an expert in chip making, and that know-how is critical. Anna Puglisi is a fellow at the Center for Security and Emerging Technology at Georgetown.
The technological knowledge is as important as the actual widgets. That's what we're talking about. It's the art of making something, and that makes it so much more challenging.
So Wang and UMC had what they needed to make chips. Instead, they made their next mistakes. Court documents say UMC managers went recruiting in Silicon Valley, throwing around Micron's proprietary company vocabulary, like internal code names. That was one giveaway. Later in Taiwan, when authorities raided UMC offices, Wang and his collaborators shoved the incriminating evidence into a locker. It got found. Matthew Brazil writes for the publication Spy Talk.
They were just corporate actors acting like corporate people, which is to flush everything down the toilet and hope for the best during a raid.
Brazil is a fellow at the Jamestown Foundation, and he's co-author of the book Chinese Espionage. He says a lot of cases involve these amateur moments.
Packing evidence into their suitcase before they go to China instead of maybe FedEx it, which would have been a lot better.
It's these types of errors that in the end led the U.S. government to indict UMC, plus Kenny Wang, plus the two other engineers and the Chinese partner firm. Here's U.S. Attorney Alex Tse.
These 5 defendants have been charged with conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets, economic espionage, and the conspiracy to commit economic espionage.
Specifically, espionage for China, which has declared semiconductor development a top priority. That's partly because China doesn't want to import chips that can also be used for weapons and spying, says Scott Kennedy at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
They may simply believe that chips have backdoors or other ways in which the West can maintain their dominance over China.
But the Chinese company in this story, known as Fujian Jinhua, has not succeeded for China. After being indicted and then hit with U.S. sanctions, it hasn't sold a single memory chip. But this isn't the only company trying to lift American secrets, and Kennedy warns there are others that are better at it. And those are the cases we don't know about. I'm Scott Tong for Marketplace.
Coming up.
Can we insure nature itself? Who owns it and how do you do it?
How do you do it anyway? First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's down 200 points today, 0.6%, ended at 30,015. The Nasdaq went the other way, up 65, about 0.5%, 12,807. The S&P 500 down 7, about 0.2%. 36 and 87 there. Apple grew 2.8% today on reports companies moving ahead with plans to make self-driving cars. Tesla also makes self-driving cars and electric cars and all that jazz. Slowed 1.4%. Let's be clear, not completely self-driving, but let's not get wrapped up in that. Speaking of electric cars, by the way, there's a new survey from Consumer Reports shows 71% of people said they had some interest in getting an electric vehicle at some point. Same. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Charles Schwab. Schwab offers a modern approach to wealth management with personalized financial planning to meet an investor's specific needs and the flexibility to adapt as those needs change with time. Learn more at schwab.com/plan. And by Edison Research, dedicated to quality consumer research and public opinion polling for corporations and organizations worldwide. Learn more at edisonresearch.com/marketplace. And by the United States Postal Service, offering postage stamps for purchase at checkout at more than 40,000 participating supermarkets, drugstores, office suppliers, banks, and wholesale clubs.
Support for WNYC comes from Sweeten, a renovation service that can upgrade homes for the remote work and school lifestyle, matching each project with general contractors while offering guidance and financial protection. More at SWEETEN.com.
Adam Wiener's contribution to the Morning Edition Song Project was unexpected. I never thought I would write a Christmas song. During a season of isolation, the musician wanted to capture all the emotional layers of the holiday.
We just have to have that sense of sympathy for each other, that everybody's feeling a lot of things on that day.
Why Christmas Makes Him Cry on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
Weekday mornings on